What is up, DTube? What is up, Steam blockchain? Today I want to talk a little bit about the three different things. So I saw this great video talking a little bit that got me some new ideas, and this video will have three categories. So business money, state money, and people money. And this is a simplification. Doesn't mean it's gonna play out this way, but in a way this helps in many ways in how to look at it, or how you can look at it. So let's start off with, what is business money? Well, it is when all these big businesses, and even the crypto businesses, when they become really big, they make their own token or whatever, and that becomes their money, right? That becomes their ecosystem. They have incentives to try to make it more popular, the token, right? So examples of this: Facebook 2020, the Libra. Like, okay, that's the first big player in terms of business money. They clearly want everyone to use the Libra, and they have massive incentives to make the Libra huge, because they have a lot of funds coming in from the node operators, which is going to pay $10 million each. But then we take a look at this, and eventually we might see Google, we might see Amazon, we might see Apple, we might see Oracle or IBM, or all these big players, these big businesses in tech. They might all come out with their own sort of token system and value system and their own sort of business money, right? So it gets really interesting here, because they're all competing for the same kind of people. They want someone's attention, and that they use their sort of value system. And then of course state money, we know, when the fiat money. And this is kind of like a two-sided thing, because in some ways fiat money can also come from banks, which can be businesses. But then you also have 100% state money, which is fiat money issued by a state, let's say. And what is then, so that is the state money side. Okay, we covered two: business money and state money. And then people money, what is that? Well, right now I would say you can only call, for example, Bitcoin, that is the only sort of people money at the moment. But then again, because it's kind of open and you can sort of use it everywhere, sort of. Okay, there's still limits, of course, probably in some locations, and what kind of technology you use and all that. But in general, you can sort of use it in many places. Okay, and so that is what you can in many ways call people money. Okay, and that's just a label, because in some ways you can argue, okay, what about the miners? What happens? A miner can, of course, it's a business in many ways, but in some ways it's sort of different. Yes, a miner can also be shut down and all that, but in some ways it's a little bit different compared to business money, where, yeah, node operators, they're running this thing that you can sort of call Bitcoin. But yeah, I would call Bitcoin the only one right now which you in some ways can then call people's money, okay? Which they can sort of use peer-to-peer, and it works pretty decent. It's not perfect, but it works pretty cool. Okay, so all of these three categories, I mean, it looks like they're sort of going to compete for people's attention. And my guess is business money is going to be pretty huge. Okay, people money also. And it gets kind of interesting when you then also have state money, and see all these three categories sort of compete for humans' attention. Because in a way, you know that Libra and when all of these big tech companies, they're already worth sort of trillions, when they can basically print their own tokens and stuff like that, that means they can also hire the best lawyers and all of this. So in some ways, the businesses and the business money, it seems like it's going to become bigger than state money in many ways. It's probably going to be worth more in many ways also than many countries' GDP. So it gets very, very interesting how businesses that can basically make people thrive and put value in people's hands, that is probably going to be the most dominant form of money that people are going to use, business money. They're good, and then there of course are going to be people that just want to use quotes, people money, whatever now that means, but there's going to be niche audience that wants some alternative system that is 100% peer-to-peer, but most people are probably going to use some form of business money eventually, and it's going to be the businesses that can just produce as much value as possible and create this value system where people are interested in the brand and people are getting value, and their friends are using it because they also get value and all of this. I mean, we already see right now with why do we love big companies, Apple, Google, Samsung and all of this, is because they give so much value. So obviously that's going to be something that probably is going to keep happen, and it's going to happen with the money, with money systems, right? It's probably going to move. This is probably also going to happen in terms of security also, that is mainly going to be private companies eventually that is going to deal with a lot of security in the world, and that is going to be a big sort of industry in many ways, security, because a lot of stuff is getting privatized and all that. It's basically that businesses they can make a lot of stuff happen because they have big incentives to satisfy people, right? And basically giving people what they want, right? They have massive incentives to do that. So that's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting how you have these three categories that are basically going to compete for people's attention. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, because I think that a lot of people eventually, there's going to be a lot of people, or more people than right now, that's going to care about security and the value system that they're using, because most of this they delegated in the past to maybe a bank, and they didn't pay attention as much. But now there's going to be more incentives to pay attention, to really see that someone is looking out for you. And businesses, they always look for a new customer or some new person that they can serve, someone that is interested in making profits and stuff like that. So business leaders are probably going to take over the world in a much bigger way than they're probably going to play a way bigger role than what they played maybe in the past. I mean, in many ways, yeah, they have sort of always played a big role, but now they're going to play an extra big role because they're basically going to print value, right? So that gets really, really interesting. It gets really, really interesting, right? Because eventually they're going to realize, wow, we basically have a free workforce because we can create our own value from nothing. Something that a lot of banks have been doing for a long time, but just in terms of issue loans, and states have also been playing around with this, that you can print value. But now businesses are going to come in and really see, this is kind of lucrative. How can we create more value? How can we create more business? How can we give people what they want? Because there's always going to be people that are interested in making businesses and providing more value to people. It's really been amazing to see the tech effect the last 20 or 30 years to see how fast it has been able to spread. Better technology, better experience for the end user, and all this. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see all these three players sort of competing for a person's attention. Because, I mean, if you look at the people's money in many ways. I mean, in many ways right now, when we get better technology, in theory, you don't really have to use, I mean, you can use, right now, there are systems in place where you can generate some kind of token, and you can agree with your friend, this has value. I'm going to give it to you right now, and then we are always going to agree that this has some value, and I'm going to buy it from you, and you're going to buy it from me. In a way that becomes sort of people's money in many ways, and it's very utopian that people are going to go 100% peer-to-peer. But we also know that people sort of like to rely on something. They like to have a little bit of a premium service or some backup or whatever. So it seems as business money are going to be the most dominant form of money in a digital age. But nothing is really certain. There's a lot of things that can play a massive role. Let's say AI is so amazing. Let's say AI is so amazing, and that it basically makes so much value that we can use automate so much systems that a person basically can, whatever they need, they can get it easy, and everyone has an AI. Then maybe even the idea of business money might be an ancient concept. But I mean, we don't know that. We don't know how good AI is going to be. We don't know exactly what it's going to be capable of. But it's going to be interesting to see it play out. For example, one thing could be if the AI was so good that it just makes every person sit on so much value that they never have to transact again. I mean, in theory, that is a possibility. Because it's going to be so intelligent that it, in theory, would be able to do that. That it just makes it so, well, you're going to have this many zeros or whatever, and then you're good. You never have to transact with another human again, even though you can. But what would be the point of it if each person already has the value that they need? If all the production is done by a machine, so a machine creates its own internal value system, that could in theory be something that would make it so even concepts as business money, state money, and people money, that you would have AI money instead. That in theory can work. Another thing is, in terms of, state money in theory can be amazing if they really go all in to be digital and decentralized and free. In theory, then you can also then have very interesting state money. Like if they expanded the borders of ignorance and really became super wise, which we see happen on a smaller scale in smaller places. But if it happened in larger places, state money can in many ways be amazing. If they really go all in that, yeah, we're going to have this thing called state money, but we are going to decentralize it all over the country or all over the world. They might decide to do it different depending on the place, but in theory, that could be amazing. But is it really going to happen? Probably no. Probably it's going to be a lot of resistance, but eventually, who knows? When even they have an AI in their hands, who knows? So all of these can work out. I guess I should have a fourth category. I might put it in the video title. AI money, business money, state money, people money. You can have combination. You can have all sorts of combinations of these. It all depends on a lot of stuff. Humans' passion and involvement in something, how much they actually care. Yeah, I mean, and how much humans push their own individual human genius. That's also a factor. There are many factors in play in how something can play out, but it's gonna happen in one way or another. And we know, what do we know? For example, we know that this place is highly intelligent. So, and we know that we are always expanding our borders of ignorance. So it's probably going to be something that is way more intelligent than we had in our mind. I mean, it might not even be business money, state money, people money, AI money. It might not be any of those categories. It might be something brand new that we cannot even imagine yet. Because we're always expanding our borders of ignorance. So each day you can always spot the new amazing stuff that you didn't think about the day before. And I think that this is going to happen more and more for people, especially when humans discover more, because they actually use their eyes and see things. They see potential that they did not see in the past. Maybe a new door opened up. We don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see these categories played out. Doesn't mean it has to be a winner or that it has to be some kind of super competition, because usually we look at a lot of stuff in a very dystopian ways. You should realize that it's an amazing thing happening to the planet if all the robots do all the work, like literally all the work, and even all the thinking. Humans still need to think, but to take things in, they don't have to think. That might sound super weird. But what I mean is, when you think, that's mainly to take care of some basic stuff during a day. But to really get a deeper understanding, you don't really have to think. The reason why I say it is because thoughts are basically only going to be old data that you just rehash in your head, right? Well, when you take something and you take in new data and you discover more. So yeah, that's a little bit what I wanted to talk a lot about in this video. It's gonna be interesting to see all this play out. And remember, I mean, this place is intelligent, but it can still go many ways. Because humans still have this thing we call free will, you know? But yeah, that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Have a great day, DTube and the Steam blockchain. Bye bye.